Happy New Year from a
Woo
BNT
woo.
Sports Talk Show. It is 2023, first day of the brand new year, and we're happy to be with y'all. If this is your first time tuning in to us, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button and then hit that notification bell as well. We much appreciate it. And I'll just start off with a Happy New Year to everybody, and hopefully everyone is enjoy time with their families, and have put together all their resolutions like lose 20 pounds and get a new job, make more money, the stuff people usually do around this time of year.
Right.
But on top of that, there's a lot of sports happenings going on as we get into the new year. NFL playoffs are quickly approaching. We're getting to the nitty gritty of the NBA, and I'm gonna start off with or we'll start with B. I mean, Happy New Year to you, and
Hey, Happy New Year.
yeah, thank you. What the hell did you do today?
What did I do today? Cleaned up my storage unit, watched the Niner game, so which we're gonna talk about
Yep.
shortly. And now I'm here, getting ready to go crabbing tomorrow with my godfather and my dad. So I'm really looking forward to that. How about you,
Oh
man?
man, just spend time with family. We didn't really do quite a countdown. We did some good eating. We had a pozole and ate a lot of that, and so we watched that was that Top Gun and Maverick movie. I think that took us into the new year. Very 80s. Did you see it? It's like,
I haven't seen it
oh
yet.
man, I,
I know it's on Paramount
it's
Plus,
not
so maybe I'll get a
it's
chance to
not it's
watch
not
it.
bad. There's great action, great suspense, but there's probably about maybe I'm joking, but there's like 2,000 words worth of script in that entire movie. It's not some of those things. It's mostly music, cutscenes, and airplanes. But anyway, let's hop into the sports. You hit on it earlier. We were talking about the 49er and Raider game. Used to be the Battle of the Bay, but unfortunately, one of those teams is no longer in the Bay. So this is just a battle of two teams at this point. They didn't have a lot of expectations as a Raider fan coming into this one. Obviously, Derek Carr has been benched. We'll talk about that after we talk a little bit more about the game. Backups, Stidham, whatever, came in
Stidham.
and actually didn't look half bad. But again, the Raiders found a way to do just enough to lose. Uh, so it was a little bittersweet. Like we talked about this before the show, I was positive watching them play the opening drive. They go out and they put points on the board against a really good 49ers defense, and it just went back and forth for quite a while. It was a really good game, but in the scheme of things, they're not going to make the playoffs. This quarterback change did make me feel better about the situation with Carr because I felt like they had a couple of games just like this with Carr, and they still end up losing. So, yeah, man, it was a good effort. From the
Well,
what did you
good thing
think?
they don't hand out good thing they don't hand out participation trophies to you guys, because you guys be leading the league in participation trophies. But I think there was you could see a little bit of energy on the Raiders side,
Yeah,
especially with the final drives in the fourth quarter. They orchestrated a game winning touch, or a game tying
yeah, they
touchdown, to
did.
say the least.
Yep.
And the Niners defense has been just stopping people the second half all year. They hadn't allowed a touchdown in the last 2 minutes, for a while, and the Raiders did something that a lot of teams cannot do. So there's a lot to look for there, because the Niners are a really good team, and um, for them to really compete in that atmosphere, this was their Super Bowl, and as you can see, um, it was full of Niner fans in there. Like, it really looked like a game that was played out in the Bay Area, with the amount of fans that they
Yeah.
had kind of overtaking the stadium there. But kudos, you got to give credit to the rookie quarterback here. It's not easy being a rookie quarterback in this league, especially going up against the number one defense in the league. And the Niners just they allowed 500 yards today,
Yeah.
over 300 yards passing, over 150 yards rushing, and they took it right to him. Bosa, the quarterback stayed clean for most of the time, so you got to give credit to the Raiders' offensive line for holding it down. Allowing the quarterback to have time to throw, because there was a lot of times where he just sat in the pocket and had plenty of time to get the ball out.
And again, that's why it's bittersweet, because it's like, where has that been through a majority of the season? You know what I mean? So, I
Yep.
mean, yeah, it's great to see that they put forth an effort. Obviously, a change in quarterback, or anytime you see big changes, whether it be a coach or a quarterback, the team kind of gets a little bit of an uplift, because it's just different. It's new. Things are a little bit fresher. But yes, Stidham did a great job. 365 yards. He got a couple of picks, which
It's
his
normal.
stat line ain't much different from Derek Carr's. I'm gonna be honest with you. And then it isn't. Devonte Adams, 77 receptions, 153 yards. Again, had a great game. And yeah, you're right. They did. I will say the offense did look a little bit more fine tuned. The ball, especially in the first half, the ball was coming out pretty clean. Stidham didn't spend a lot of time on his back. So yeah, the Raiders did some good things in this game. Unfortunately, there was the interception at the very end of the game, which kind of sealed the deal in overtime.
Threw off his back foot
Yeah,
and
well,
just that was a terrible throw.
he ran his
The rush
his
was
his
there.
left guard, or just went right into him, and he threw the ball as he was getting hit by his own guard, who was being pushed by, I don't know who it was, probably Bosa, and then that was just a wobbly duck that got picked off. So,
Yeah.
like I said, hard to say if this means that there's something more positive to look for. I definitely don't think that Jared Stidham is going to be the solution. I do think the Raiders will look elsewhere for quarterback help, and I think that kind of leads us into our next conversation, which is the fact that Derek Carr did not play, and was benched.
Didn't play. He ain't even in the
I
facility,
was
bro.
just yeah,
He ain't even around.
was benched and then disappeared.
Get your ass home.
Yeah, he went home, and I feel bad for Carr, as a Raider fan. Although he's been around for quite a while now, he has had a lot of different coaches and offensive coordinators along the way, and we've had some bright spots. But every time he's had a bright spot, there's been a change in the regime. This has happened a couple. It happened with Del Rio. Remember, they were doing well with Del Rio. They went to the playoffs. He got hurt, and then the next season they bring in John Gruden. And now it's happening again. They had a good season They had a pretty good season. John Gruden gets ousted after the whole racist email saga, and then They bring in the assistant coach. The team picks up the pace, starts playing a lot better, makes the playoffs, and loses to the I think, who did we lose to? The Bengals, I believe, in the playoffs.
Yeah. Yep. And
And
that was on a controversy call though.
yeah,
I'll give him that.
yeah, but it at least they were a playoff team. Um, and then they changed the regime again. So then they wipe everyone out. They bring in Josh McDaniels and his folks, and now they're trash again. So, a part of me wants to blame Carr and say, "Hey, man, it's been 10 years. You couldn't get it done in 10 years. We got to move on." Completely understand that. But a part of me is like, under Al Davis and his son, they switch coaches every 3 years, every 3 to 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. So I don't know how you really expect the quarterback to really,
Succeed.
be successful without there being some type of continuity from year to year to year to year, offense to offense to offense. It keeps changing. So
Yeah.
I guess that's two ways to look at it. Well, I mean, what was your take on it, man? What did you think when you saw the
I
Derek Carr's
was
disappearing news?
It's not like they were eliminated from the playoff picture. They were
Yeah, that's true.
they would still be in it had they won today because the Jets lost.
Right.
So that put them into the spot to at least give them another day to compete for a playoff spot, and not to have your quarterback available for it and to be sent home so he's not a distraction to the team. I think there's a little more kind of going on inside there. Obviously, we're never going to know about it, but
Yeah.
I think his time is up in Las Vegas. This is it. You've had 10 years on with a Raider uniform on and two playoff appearances to show for it.
Yeah.
Now, granted, the coaching's been there, but there's been some good talent to walk through Oakland and Las Vegas to get to that point. And for them not to make the leap from being a wild card team last year to competing for the division. Now, granted, I don't think anybody was going to compete for this division with Kansas City in it because they're just blowing through it again.
Yeah.
But they were at least you can at least try to compete for that wild card spot,
Right.
and they just could not get games finished. They bring in a wide receiver that has connections with him, and they never got on the same page.
Yeah.
Like it never clicked. So I think the time is up for Derek Carr. He's got to just sit there and say, hey, you know what? This is it. It's now. Is he going to be a popular free agent come the end of the year? Now, obviously, the Raiders owe him, I think, $40 million if they don't trade him away. They're going to own that $40 million due to this contract. So it's going to
Yeah.
be an interesting offseason for Derek Carr going forward with that there. But
Yeah.
that kind of that kind of leads into the next subject here is who is the quarterback for next year.
Yeah.
Um, there's a lot of rumors swirling around, so we'll start with the obvious one and your favorite person that we could talk about, and that is Tom Brady linking up with Josh McDaniels one more time for the final swan song. What would you think of a Brady reunion in? Because that was technically supposed to
Man.
happen
Yeah.
with Rob Gronkowski when they first got to Las Vegas, but obviously it didn't take place. So if it happens again, what's your feel? What's your take on good old Tom Brady coming back for a swan song in Las Vegas?
I think his swan song was in with the Buccaneers, and I think it's a great story. I'm glad that he has a movie coming out about what is it called, 30 for 80s for Tom, with four
It,
old ladies who are stalking him and trying to get his autograph. Kudos
Locker
to you,
room
Tom.
too. My God.
What the hell is that? Anyway, so yeah, no, I don't want him to come to the Raiders because I don't want to do the rehash thing. I don't want to bring somebody in. He's on the very tail end of his career, and not even the tail end. We're at the end of his career, and even though the Bucks have been really up and down, and there have been some high points and some low points. Um, I don't know if he makes this team terribly better. I mean, there is the idea of him being with Josh McDaniels and that synergy making for a much better offensive output than what we've seen this year, and I can certainly see that. But that would mean that I would expect Brady to win a championship in 2 years because he's not going to play any longer than that. The guy is already at the end of his career. How long of an opportunity or a line are we giving a 42, 45-year-old quarterback? I prefer to have somebody you can have a good stretch of 5 years with to figure out how good the team will be.
So that's going to lead into one more quarterback who may have at least another 3 years in him. That is Aaron Rodgers. Now, we all know how unhappy slash happy slash unhappy he is in Green Bay, but he is a free agent at the end of this year. So is is the calling for Aaron Rodgers with a reunion of Devontae Adams kind of in that mix there?
It's intriguing because Aaron still has some mustard left. He can whip the ball around a good deal. My whole thing with him though has always been the leadership thing. I never felt like he was really a leader on his team.
No, no.
And so that's the thing that kind of usually you want your quarterback to be the guy that's leading. And even though I can give Carr all the hell I want, the one thing I can't say is he was his own man. He was a big part of the locker room, always has been for the Raiders. So I don't know if you know Aaron doesn't bring that. Aaron Rodgers doesn't bring that type of charisma with him. So
Well,
I think it's intriguing. Yes. But how good will it make us? I don't know. But I at this point, I probably would say I'd take Aaron Rodgers over a Tom Brady, over the Brady option. That's for sure.
yeah, and we've got Tim Hayame. Welcome to the show. First
What's
time
up, Tim?
we're getting chats from him. Brady needs to build up the second string, and Rodgers is done. I mean, if you're willing, if it's a year experiment, pretty much. So you're asking a rookie or a very inexperienced quarterback to learn a lot within a year. From a quarterback like that, is it physically possible or is it mentally possible for something like that to take place? I think you need more than a year just to kind of build that stability in the NFL from a veteran quarterback.
Right.
I think it's just more of, hey, we got 1 year, we got one shot with this kind of talent.
Right.
let's see what we could do with that. Cars out of Vegas. I think that is the agreement upon this entire NFL world that when you're not allowed back into the facility for the remaining of the year, that means you are gone for the rest of your career
More
as a
than
Raider.
likely. More than
Same
likely.
reason why Jimmy G is out of SF. We'll
Not
talk that.
yeah, not really, but I can see
Yeah,
that, but not really. I think Jimmy G's out because he's injured.
but that leads me into my next comment because Jimmy G is a free agent beginning this year. Is Oakland or not Oakland? Damn it! Is Las Vegas a
That's what happens
destination
to me all
for
the time.
Jimmy G? He is. He's not old. He's getting up there in age, but you got 5 or 6 years on a guy who wins.
Yeah, I
On
hate
a
to I,
guy who
I
wins. I
hate to
said that.
even bring it up, but the fact is the Josh McDaniels is an old Patriot coach, and Jimmy G, of course, was the backup for
Yep.
Tom Brady. So there is some connective tissue there, and it's probably the easiest play to make when we get into the offseason as far as trades. It might be a little bit easier to pull off than a Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers, because Jimmy G is going to be a free agent, correct? This
Yep.
offseason. So
Yes, he
they
is.
won't have to give up anything to get him. They can just sign him outright. So yeah, I mean, I hate to even say this, but it seems more likely that that would happen than either of the other two that we talked about.
Yep. Timmy coming back with us here. Well, the Raiders usually get our sloppy seconds, anyways.
Oh
um,
yeah, well that yeah they yeah. There's been a lot of
are
bad
you
Patriot pickups by the rate by the Raiders over the years.
so? Is he calling Jerry Rice sloppy seconds because he was with the Niners before he went to the Raiders? Aldon Smith, I would say, was sloppy seconds. Who else? Who was it? The defensive guy, Solomon. Solomon Thomas was sloppy seconds. Um,
Yeah, I mean it does happen. I would say the Raiders' problem isn't so much that as much as it is when we do draft talent, we don't really hold on to it anyway. I mean, we had the best defensive player in the world at one point in Khalil Mack, and we traded him away. I mean, Amari Cooper is not that great, but we decided to trade him away. And a lot of players deserve for deservingly so. But I don't know, man. The Raiders have to figure out um, their structure as far as being consistent with the head coach and the head coach and the coaching staff. I still feel like that the changeover that they have had with coaches over the past 15 years or 10 to 15 years has been a lot. So, you know, it's just
yeah.
stupid, man. It's dumb.
So So with the end of the season coming, obviously there's a couple of things that are going to be on the mind. One is Coach McDaniels. Now, obviously, this isn't the year that the Raiders were hoping for. There's a lot of talk of if he's going to be the fit for this organization going forward. Um, just real quickly, what do you think is what's the timeline for McDaniels to turn this organization around?
I mean, I think in the NFL, you probably got like maybe 2 or 3 years. I think he's gonna get an excuse this year. This year they'll say, oh, it was he can kind of use Carr as the scapegoat,
Yeah.
and then after that, it's going to be on him because this time he'll be able to select his own quarterback instead of inheriting one. So
Yep.
this next year will be the year where he can prove that his offense works, that his scheme is what it is his scheme, which is why he's hired as a head coach that was with the Patriots, actually works outside of New England. So we'll see if he can do that, and if he can do that, then yes. But if it fails again next year, and then they go into the next year and they don't do so hot, then yeah, you got 3 years. After that, they're going to be calling for his head.
Yep, I agree to that. I think once he brings in his quarterback, it's going to be a 2 year window of him trying to um, succeed there. And then the last one, Mr. Devonte Adams was hoping to be having a good
Yeah,
season
man,
here.
that
Now his
sucks.
quarterback's gone, and I've been waiting for Terrell Owens' moment where he's like, "That's my
That's
quarterback,
my
man.
quarterback,
That's
man.
my quarterback, man." But obviously now he's not your quarterback now. So
No.
does Devonte Adams stick around with this organization,
Hmm.
or does he look to move on?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of that is going to depend on what happens in this off season, and what they decide to do with the quarterback position. If they bring in somebody like if they bring in a vet like a Rodgers or a Jimmy G or something like that, I could see Devonte Adams trying to stick it out. If they go out and they decide to draft some rookie, or they come outside the box with some quarterback we're not familiar with or that we are familiar with, but that isn't very good, i.e. Carson Wentz or one of those guys, journeyman quarterbacks, we'll call them. Then yeah, I can see Devontae being like, "Nah, bro, I'm out of here, man. I ain't sticking around for this because I already seen this dude play. He's not good." So I think a lot of that will depend upon the QB position that they're going to have to address in the offseason.
Yeah. So, well, he's going to be another free agent coming up soon, I think, within the next 2 years. Before we move on past the Raiders, we have a very hilarious comment from the one and only Rachel. They Raiders get our sloppy seconds and then they go to jail.
Damn, really?
She's been waiting to say that, and Tim agrees. He points up and says facts. So let's get into some Niner talk because we've got a Niner question here. Um, we'll, we'll lead it. Tim's going to lead us into this here, but we'll start with the Niners here.
Yeah.
Obviously, watching the game today, I've been very skeptical of Brock Purdy. He played 3 home games. He got wins. This was his first test on the road. Now, granted, it is just the Raiders, but you are on the road. You are not at the comfort of your own home facility here.
Yeah.
They got down 7-0 real quick, but there was a lot of calm and cool composure from Brock
No,
Purdy
he makes
here.
some big
And
plays.
there were a couple of errant throws. Again, it happens with every quarterback
Luckily, they didn't get
under
picked
pressure.
off. They didn't get picked off. That's
Exactly.
what mattered. Yeah.
And that's why the Raiders have their defenders the way they are because they couldn't play offense. They could not catch the ball. But this is starting to feel like when Tom Brady took over for New England. When Drew Bledsoe went down, he stepped in and basically kept the movement going for the team. With Jimmy G going down and Brock Purdy stepping in and having a little more talent than Jimmy G, it's kind of safe to say that this may be the movement that Kyle Shanahan's looking for. There's a lot of young talent on that team, and you bring in a young quarterback who's got the composure of a veteran quarterback. This could mean a lot here, and this is all good learning experience for Brock Purdy as he makes his way into the playoffs here. So, before we talk about the Niners schedule, let's real quick. You were Kyle Shanahan, Taj, and Jimmy G comes back, and Brock Purdy's there. Who you starting in the playoffs?
Oh man, I think you got to ride the hot hand. I mean,
Yeah,
not to say that Jimmy G wasn't playing well when he was playing, but changing things right at the playoffs or right before the playoffs is very very risky. And I don't think that the 49ers have had any real faith in any of their quarterbacks, to be quite honest with you. Because if they did, then I felt, I don't know, I felt like if they did, they would, then Trey Lance would have never started, right?
yeah,
If they felt like they knew who the stars were, Trey Lance, they would have stuck with Jimmy G. But they said no, Jimmy G isn't it. Even though we went to the Super Bowl and we've had some success, we're gonna go to Trey Lance. Trey Lance gets hurt, they go back to Jimmy G. Everything's peachy. They start winning games again. And this is kind of a unforeseen circumstance where the third string quarterback, which if you're a Niners fan, look, there's nothing about the mystique of this isn't the mystique of the Niners. This is just stone cold luck. There's no other
beyond
team,
stone cold
there's no
luck,
other
man.
team in the league that can bring out their third string quarterback and win games. I'm sorry, there isn't. Look at what happened to the Jets. The Jets, their whole quarterback situation is just exploded right in their face. It just doesn't happen. So, um, that being said, they didn't have faith in any of them. So I think what they'll do is they'll still stick with the hot hand in Brock Purdy and continue through the playoffs. And based upon how Purdy does in this postseason, excuse me, that I think that's going to make the decision for them. If he gets anywhere near the NFC Championship game, or they play an NFC Championship game, I think Purdy's your guy. Honestly, I think they got to then they can go back and they can let Jimmy G go, trade Trey Lance, and try to get some assets and move on with the rest, move on with the on into the next season.
Well, you just answered the question from Tim Hayame. So, do you think with Brock doing as well as he is, he is, and both Jimmy G and Lance coming back, who's getting let loose? And I just got your answer, and I'm gonna have to agree with you on that. You got to cut ties with Trey Lance. I know you gave up a lot to get him for the hype, but I'm gonna stick by this. 4 years of college football will outweigh 3 games of college football every single day. That experience is showing on the field. Win or losing, he's got the experience. He's been in that. He played in a big time conference in the Big 12, and he's got the exposure to what it is for big games. And he stepped into the role and succeeded. And I think the Niners are going to do the same thing. If they were smart, you keep Jimmy G. Let those two compete for the starting quarterback job. I think that's a legitimate competition between those two. And I think Brock Purdy may even edge him out for that. But you never know what's going to happen in this league. And so, it's a smart move keeping Jimmy G on this roster because he was able to maintain the ship. And
Yeah,
then
man.
the Niners struck all sorts of luck with
Mr.
Brock
Irrelevant,
Purdy.
really? Now what?
Yeah,
Is this a joke? Like, come
I'm
on,
telling
man.
you. And you know how we talked about football cards and all of that, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Dude, people are selling his autograph right now for
Are
$500.
you serious?
I can't make
Mr.
this up,
Irrelevant,
dude.
man.
Mr.
Hey,
Irrelevant, dude,
get
and
your money.
it's a hot card right now.
Get your money,
So
man.
I would cut ties with Trey Lance. Yeah, you are losing draft picks, but you know what? You really made up for those draft picks by gaining Christian McCaffrey with the emergence of Ayuk, with Jennings, with Devo, with Kittle. So those 3 years you're gonna have that core together makes up for those lost draft picks there.
Yeah,
100%.
absolutely. Absolutely. So you want to jump into the schedule a little bit. So this is something you kind of brought up about the 49ers and being skeptical of their win-loss total this season due to their schedule. I don't have any I mean, do you have anything on strength of schedule? I'm just kind of looking at their schedule overall, and
Well, look,
they played some, some pretty good teams. I mean, I think the reason their schedule ended up being soft is because of how bad the rest of their own division was.
yeah,
I think that's what changed it. I mean, if Arizona and Seattle were better teams, as well as some other NFC rivals like the Saints and they beat up on their own conference pretty good.
they
And
pretty
I think
much did.
that's what it, and I think that's where you see all the wins coming from. They beat up on most of the NFC that they played. They beat, and I think that's what ended up happening this time around.
So I'm just gonna bring this up because it was something in the back of my mind. Now, obviously, they are on a 9 game winning streak, but realistically, they the one time they played an elite team, they got trounced. I'm
Oh, you're
making
talking
up
about the
words, but they got smoked, and that was against the Kansas City Chiefs, 44-23.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so it led me to believe they've seen teams with some pretty good defenses like Washington. You can't sleep on that defense. That's a pretty decent defense they got over there. But other than that, when you look at the schedule, what screams out to you as a challenging schedule to say the least. Now you don't know how the schedule is going to roll out because it is the NFL.
Right.
You don't know how teams are going to come out, but when you look at the the records against the teams they beat, terrible.
Yeah.
But
Be
you still need to go out and win games.
yeah.
That's the bottom line. So
Yeah.
that's why I was just like, hey, it's when you look at the 9 game winning streak here, who was their toughest opponent through that 9 game winning streak?
Yeah, man. I mean, they haven't played anybody of stature. I mean, maybe the Seahawks, um, maybe the Dolphins. I don't know. They the Chargers maybe. I think that's a little further back than 9 games, but they
Yeah,
I really think that it comes down to what I was talking about, man. It comes down to this: the Rams, the
garbage,
Seahawks, and the Arizona
garbage,
Cardinals. I
garbage.
mean, the teams in their division were not very good, and I
And
think
those are eight,
that's
and
I think that's
that's
what happened.
what that's three. That's so you playing that's 6 wins right there.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that's they did what they needed to do, but I was just like, man, I really need to look at that schedule just to see. come playoff time, you're getting the best of the best. How do they stack up against that? And really, the only best team they played is the Chiefs, and that was at home and it got smoked. But who knows? It's a different team now. They're playing out of their mind right now. But that was just something I wanted to touch on a little bit. Was that schedule?
Yeah, man. Yeah,
Um,
yeah. No, and I think it really is just the fact that they end up it just bore out that way because of how bad their own division was. And
no,
speaking of that, a lot of teams kind of bit the dust, and teams are continuing to bite the dust as we get closer and closer to playoff time. So let's take a quick peek at kind of the teams that have clinched those spots and some of the teams that are on the outside looking in. We'll start with the fact that the Chiefs are now the number one. That they're the number one seed. So the Chiefs. We have the Chiefs at number one, Bills number two, the Bengals at number three, and the Ravens slide in as that looks like that is it. Are they sliding into wild card? Is that what's happening here?
they're in the wild card right now because
Yes.
of the 1 game difference between them and the Bengals. But when you look at that now, the Bengals and Bills play each other tomorrow night, so that's going to be a
There you
really
go.
big game
Yeah.
for positioning here. I think if the Bills lose, you're going to get the Chiefs as the number one seed. They get Denver to end the year, so we all know how Patrick Mahomes does against. Or no, who are they playing at the end of the year? I don't think it's the Broncos, but at the end of the year, it's an AFC West opponent, so they'll blow through that.
Yeah.
My surprise, though, all they need to do is win, and that is the Jacksonville Jaguars.
The
They are sitting.
Jags.
The Jags are sitting right there, and so are the Patriots. Both the Jags are first in their division.
They are,
The
yes.
Titans are having an absolute meltdown of a
They
season right
are
now,
just melting. Just terrible.
and all the Jags have to do is just win the 1 game, and they're in the playoffs here. So, um,
How
the AFC
crazy.
is really up for grabs right now.
Yeah, how crazy is that? The Jaguars, they've got a second year quarterback. They, I guess, picked up steam along the way. I mean, let's be honest, they're 8-8 guys, so let's not, it's not like they are blowing the doors off of anybody. It's just that the rest of their division again is so bad that somebody's got to win, and so the Jaguars have taken pole position, and hopefully they can keep it and get the win. It'd be nice to see them in the playoffs. I think that's one of those teams. If they get in, they're going to get bounced in the first round, but they will be able to host a playoff game, right? Because they will be a
They will
division
be a
winner.
division winner.
Yeah, so
Yep.
there you go. And it looks like the Patriots, they're going to need some help. But
Well, not too much help, but I think they're in the position where if they win,
they got
they're
to win
in
out.
as
Yeah.
well. So,
Well, they're playing the Dolphins.
um,
They're playing the Dolphins next week, so that's your matchup right there. That's going to be the game for all the marbles.
they played them this week. I'm sorry,
Oh,
I
was that
looked at
this
the
week?
schedule. Yeah,
Oh yeah,
my bad, my bad.
you're killing
Um,
me.
the NFC here. The NFC is really intriguing here, and it's the Eagles who took a loss today to the Saints are now tied with the Niners um, with the number one spot. So, in order for the Niners to clinch this number one seed, obviously they do need a win next week against the Cardinals, which that should happen. Um, the Eagles got to play the New York Giants, and so the Niners are staring at a number one seed here potentially. Um, with that, the Vikings look like they're going to stay at the number three because the Buccaneers, who are also 8-8, are finding themselves into the playoffs here. So I think the NFC is going to be the most intriguing playoff picture here because we all thought the Eagles had it locked up with that number one seed, and obviously with Jalen Hurts going down, they're one loss away from having to play a wild card game, and that is big for recovery time when it comes to your team's health getting into the playoffs.
Yeah, yeah, no, that is huge. And I mean, I guess you can't anticipate injury, but they got to get Jalen Hurts back healthy. So that's probably priority number one. But you're right. In doing so, they may end up losing ground. And yeah, the Niners may have an opportunity to jump into that number one seed and host the rest of the playoffs, which will be awesome for them because last year, if you remember, they were on the road for
Yeah,
most of
they
the
ran they
playoffs.
ran through it.
Yeah, so yeah, I think that's a great that's a, excuse me, that's a great point. And
And
then
here's the worst thing: the Packers, all they have to do is win, and in the playoffs, man. And when you
yeah,
thought you were having
I
a
don't even
playoff picture
know how the
without
hell the
Tom Brady
Packers.
or Aaron Rodgers, now we may have them both. playoffs again.
What about those Detroit Lions getting it done today?
Oh, they got it done, but they still need to beat the Packers to get
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
Who would have thought that the Lions would be playing a meaningful game in January for
Hey,
all the marbles?
it's getting real interesting, man. It's getting real interesting. So I'm really I'm excited to see what comes next in these last games of the seasons where you've got all the interdivision games going up. They're actually going to be some extremely important games. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's going
who
to
would
be
have
legit.
thought?
It's going to be
Good job,
legit.
NFL. I give you a round of applause. Thank you for an exciting coming up Sunday with that extra week here. So that's going to be fun. Good kudos to the NFL for making it another day of football for us to really be tuned into.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So
Oh, and so we already kind of went. So we've gone through the playoffs, teams on the bubble. Let's talk about the fact that Tua, uh, say his last name for me, B.
Tua Tunga Vailoa.
Thank you. Is pretty much out for the remainder of the season. I don't know. I'm not sure if I need to remind everybody, but I will. Earlier in the season, he suffered a pretty severe or two pretty severe concussions in almost back to back weeks. The last one being one where his arms, completely froze up and it was an extremely scary moment. And we even had a show to discuss and even talked about how he probably should not even play for the remainder of the season just based on him going through that traumatic experience and risking getting another concussion, obviously, because once you're
Jesus.
concussed once, you're more susceptible to being concussed again. And
Yep.
lo and behold, here we are. Tua's out.
Third one.
This is his third concussion of the season.
Yeah.
He probably won't play any more games for the remainder of the season. I think there's only one game left anyway. And it really calls into question some of the stuff we talked about in our show after the original, dust up with his second concussion, where his hands locked up. And the fact that the NFL has done a poor job of protecting players in situations like this, and we're kind of seeing that reveal itself again, where this guy's back on the field, and now he's gone again.
Hey, dude, the NFL, it's not the NFL that doesn't hate their players. The Dolphins don't like them, apparently. Why would you roll them
Right.
out after two concussions, especially with the second one being that bad?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, that it was scary, dude. His hands were turning into the exorcist going in different directions.
yeah, man.
And
Those are
so, the NFL really needs to look into this. You can't sit there and preach CTE, start coming out with new helmets, but then you've got a player rolled out there twice after concussions, get another one. And now this is his third. You're going to shorten a very good quarterback's life in the NFL, all because you need him on the field.
right.
You need to put that to the side and start looking at these players' health. And I don't think the NFL really does that for their players there, because what do they want? It's such in a league where, if you're hurt, you're playing through it. We're going to give you this to get through it.
Right.
You can't look at that from a concussion standpoint. You really need to take a look at post football for these guys here. This is a very violent game where a lot of it is head trauma.
Right.
And you're not taking care of your player by saying, hey, are you feeling good? You good? Oh, he passed one test this week. He's good to go. That doesn't mean he still has concussion like symptoms, even though he
Right.
passes the first test.
Right.
So they just said, we're just going to roll him out there and we need to get to the playoffs. And now look, it wasn't even that hard of a hit to the ground. And yet he's still sitting there going, ouch.
Right.
So they got to take care of these players, man. You cannot have guys rolling out there just getting concussed like it's nothing, giving them a week or two to recover, and then rolling them back out there. You really need to make sure that he's not sustainable to an easy concussion, even just by falling backwards.
Yeah, and it really is unfortunate because, like you said, it's bordering on the line of like they really don't care, and they really are just a commodity. Which on the surface I understand that, but you know this is a young quarterback with an opportunity to play for a long period of time. And so this season isn't going to be the most important season of his career. He's going to have many more if you can protect him. And if this were a more if this were Aaron Rodgers or Patrick Mahomes or one of these other guys, I don't think their teams would have been so hastily brought them back. They would have been kept out for longer periods of time, even though they need them a lot. Um, I don't think they would have rushed them out there like that. And so I
Yeah.
think the Dolphins organization needs to take a hard look at themselves and figure out, what do they really want from this? Because they could be creating a situation for Tua where he may not play a lot. He may come into next season and get concussed again. And then they're going to be under the microscope again. And then he's going to miss more time. Like you have to give the guy the proper amount of time to heal so that he can come back and be at his best. I had the fact that he came back 3 weeks. Was it 3 weeks, maybe? 3 weeks?
It was two.
Two,
It was
two
2 weeks
weeks?
after
Two
the
weeks
last one.
after that, there was such a big media dust up and they roll him back out on the field like nothing happened. So it was very strange, and you know, uh, I don't know what the Dolphins are. Again, I don't know what the hell they're doing, but they're gonna just like Shanahan did with RG3. You don't want to ruin this guy's career, and you got to let the guy rest, let the guy get healthy, make sure he's all ready, set up and ready to go mentally, go through the proper steps with actual doctors, and then get him back out on the field. You know?
Hey, speaking of RG3, did you see him leave mid broadcast of the college football playoffs
No, what
because
happened?
his wife went into labor?
No, but good for him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he was on the phone during the broadcast. Dude, this was live, and then he was like, "I gotta go. My wife's in labor." He celebrated real quick, dude. He outran everyone and outran the cameraman and everyone in fucking dress shoes. Oh, sorry, Kane.
yeah,
Um, and had a kid, so kudos to him. But Timmy Tim brings up a good point. Isn't it like the movie Varsity Blues? Like get them healthy, roll them back out for the players. I guess it's for the love of the game, sort of, and that's what it is. Is it's that mentality of, hey man, you feeling good? Like no one wants to be pulled from a game, but at the same time, your organization is pleading for you to get out there because they need to make the playoffs.
yeah,
That doesn't help a player at all.
right. Well, and that's the thing is someone has to. The player themselves. I don't care what sport you're looking at. The player themselves is they're going to remove themselves from the game if they think they can play. I mean, that's on the coaches, and that's why I'm talking about the Dolphins' organization. That's on the coaches and your medical staff. Those are the guys that are going to take a look at players, make sure they're okay, and take the necessary steps to make sure that that they can actually go back into the game and without further injuring themselves. And I don't think that's what's going on here. And yeah, I
It's
mean,
like it's like any given Sunday.
yeah,
You remember that movie?
it's the culture of football. I totally understand
Yep.
that, but football has always been flirting with this, and the last thing you want to do is have a player die on the field, and so that is the worst possible thing that could happen to the NFL, and so
Yeah.
they need when it comes to these head injuries, they have to really think because that's the one type of injury where at least that we've seen those are the one injuries that can cause the most damage. We know there are college, high school players and other players that have been put in wheelchairs. Have been paralyzed. Because of injuries to the spinal cord and to the brain. So yeah, so the NFL should take a look at those situations specifically, and really try to do something about it so that they can continue getting the flow of kids to play the game, because if that stops at some point, all the kids are just going to go start playing baseball and basketball because then they don't have to worry about dying on a field.
Exactly.
you know yeah.
Well, speaking of guys who left it all on the field, we just want to give a quick shout out to JJ Watt, who's retiring at the end of the year. He's going to be one of those guys in the NFL who unfortunately was very dominant in the position that he played, but will step away from the game with 0 rings to show for it here.
Yeah,
So
Charles Barkley.
he got the Charles Barkley treatment of the NFL. So
Charles
we
Barkley.
just wanted to pay homage to JJ Watt, a one of a kind athlete here, a stand-up athlete as well. He helped out the city of Houston when they were flooding. Walter Payton Man of the Year award as well for what he's done on and off the field. So For him, kudos on a fantastic career. It was a very dominant career. But unfortunately, he's going to have to walk away from the game with nothing to show on his hand.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
So,
kudos to JJ, and he's got a brother in the league he can follow around with. So if he decides he wants to stay
his
involved.
his brother his brother team's losing right now, 13-3.
Against your team, of course.
Yes,
Um,
sir.
so we'll transition into a different to another sport. We'll talk a little bit about the NBA, although not a ton going on. There's a little bit of excitement happening, and one of those things has been the Pelicans continuing to maintain a top two. I think there's number two right now, but they've been in the number one through number three seed throughout a good majority of the season. So they're actually a good team with CJ McCollum and um, the emergence, we'll call it, of Zion Williamson, who, although has always been a great talent, this is probably the longest he's been active for an entire season. So kudos to him.
Can't even call him fat anymore, man.
Yeah,
It's
no, I can't,
it's
man.
not right.
It's not right. But yeah,
But
so yeah, these teams, the Pels have been playing very good. Looking at the standings, the surprise teams we talked about, such as I already talked about the Pelicans, Sacramento Kings, the Dallas
holding on to that
Mavericks,
5 seed.
yeah, are looking pretty good and looking better than maybe some would expect it. I would say mostly the Kings and the Pelicans. I think most folks expected the Dallas Mavericks to be fairly good. What do you think of Zion? I mean, I watched him play. He's still depending a lot on his athleticism, which he should. But his game is still a little underdeveloped. But the guy is a monster. He's grabbing rebounds. He's grabbing his own rebounds and then
Yeah.
dunking it back on people. In space, he's going up against two guys midair and throwing layups. Just guys are just bouncing off of him, like DBs off of Derrick Henry. So he's been a monster, man. What do you think,
Dude,
man?
it's been fun to watch. I think this is what we've been waiting for since, even when he was in college, he had all this hype around him, and now we're getting it. You know, this
Yeah,
is this is exciting to see here. And it's the Pelicans found gold with this year, absolutely here. And I think with that veteran presence of CJ McCollum, it gives them that opportunity here to really shine. And through all of this getting lost, there's one player that we don't talk about. That's Brandon Ingram. They
right,
still have
right,
him.
right. Yep.
So this is we're at the point of the season here where you see what kind of team you have. We're almost halfway through the season, and now teams start to take shape for the rest of the year here. The Pelicans aren't going anywhere right now.
No,
They continue to get better. They're winning big games. So this may be a trend that we see, but then when the postseason will rear its head, then it becomes a completely different story after that.
absolutely,
So
absolutely. Yeah, this is an inexperienced team when we talk about the playoffs. They do have CJ McCollum, who has
yeah,
some playoff experience, but there are a lot of young guys on there who have not been in that dogfight just yet. So be curious to see how they fare. Another young guy who has been out there can't even jump over a quarter, but boy, he can put up points and pass, and that's Luka Doncic. I
whoo,
mean,
that boy's been a
honestly,
bad man,
there really isn't a
man.
whole lot to say. Luka's been pretty good for the past 3 to 4 years. The guy came into the league on fire, and I just think, a lot of his game resembles what we see with LeBron James. He's a guy that can control the tempo. He's the guy that can assist first, but he also has the capability to drop. I think in one game he dropped 60 and 20, and
20 and 10.
20 60 20 and 10.
Come on, man.
That's crazy. And so the guy has been on fire. I think he was like the NBA player. Was he the NBA player of the week?
I think he
I
was. He
think he
was
was.
averaging 50 points. He
Yeah.
had two 50-point games and then the 60.
Yeah.
Like Jesus.
But yeah, man, the dude's on fire, man. And they've got some good players with them. I mean, Tim Hardaway Jr. has been there, is been there for quite some time now. But yeah, I mean, he's kind of carrying them right now. And right now he's tearing up the league. So a lot of young guys are really taking over and really putting up really doing some great things um, in the league overall. I mean, whether you look at the East or the West, whether it be Jason Tatum, or as we just talked about, Zion. You think about, Giannis isn't necessarily the youngest guy, but he's a part of the newer group of
Yeah.
superstars that are in the league. And so, guys are stepping up, and some of your old guys are stepping out. Before we jump to the next one, I want to bring out an old guy that's still remaining, and want to point out the fact that the Brooklyn Nets are now the number 2 seed in the East.
Oh my God. I don't want. Do we have to talk about them? Come on, man. We were having such a good
they
topic.
they
We
they
were having such a
have
good
they
topic.
they have found the elixir, and they already had the talent. Now that they're playing defense, they have proven themselves to be a very tough to beat team, and they are currently they're on an 11 game winning streak and have beat some very very good teams along the way. So I'm sorry, B, I had to do it to you.
Why
Uh,
did you do that, man?
I mean, Kevin Durant's on fire, man. I mean, they got it clicking. Kyrie's been getting back into the groove, although hasn't played as well as hasn't dropped a 30-40 bomb yet. But they look good. They look good. They're finally playing some defense. They can knock down shots, and they got two guys that can, at any point in time, pull up
Take
for a
over.
three or take over a game at any point in time. So I don't know, man. You're going to have to look out for them. I don't think they can beat the Celtics. I feel like the Celtics are a team that's that really slows the game down and really makes you play possession basketball. But other than that, man, I thought they were going to bow out, and they've actually been on quite the tear.
Well, before I even I'll give it a quick discussion. I'm not going to talk about them for too long.
Okay.
Hey, Kane, good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Hope you had a good Christmas. Nice to have you here. Um, and have a good New Year. We'll see you soon up in Sacramento, my man. Yeah, the Nets are playing good. I didn't want to say it, but I'll say it. So good old Kevin Durant has found his form, like old school KD. And unfortunately, Kyrie is also balling out as well. So that's it. I don't want to talk about that team anymore. So they can choke in the
All
playoffs.
right.
That's it. We ain't gonna
All
talk about
right.
them for too much
Well,
longer there.
we'll talk about my team just a little bit. I'm not going to talk about this a lot. I mean, really, this is about the fact that LeBron James, at this stage in his career, 20th season, 38 years old, had a birthday just passed where he dropped 47 and had to carry the rest of the LeBronettes to a win.
LeBron Nets.
So so kudos to Bron, and a lot of guys, or most guys, especially in the NBA at that age, could not play at this level. But we are seeing something that we've never seen before: an athlete at this stage in his career, playing at a high level, hasn't had major injury, has, knock on wood, has can still jump up and dunk the ball, emphatically, not that little lazy drop in dunk, and has actually improved his game, at least his jumper game, to some degree. So kudos to Braun for making that happen. And this is again unprecedented. I don't think there's anybody out there 38 that can get out there and ball like that. So kudos to you,
And
sir. Kudos to you,
with
King
with
James.
with all with the he invests in himself too. I think he spends like $1 million a year
Yeah,
investing on his health to make sure he could play at a peak performance.
right.
But you really got to understand at the age of 38, there's not a lot of NBA players who are even getting 15 points on
Right.
the board.
Yeah.
And he went out and dropped 47 on the road. And there's no slowing down. Like there hasn't been a drop off since LeBron's found his stride. There's been zero drop off, and it makes you wonder how long is he going to be able to sustain this in the NBA because
Right.
he's still playing at a very high level. So it's you got I don't like him. You got to respect the game. You got to admire the game for
Right.
what he's doing there because it's a very very short list. There's him and I think MJ who've been able to put up those kind of points at the age of 37 and 38.
Yeah.
The older he gets, it's like the game never changes for him.
Yeah.
And he adapts to the way the game's being played. The day we see LeBron get knocked off his pedestal, as far as he can't do it anymore, then we'll start seeing that transition over. But kudos to LeBron. I will give him that. He deserves it to still do what he does at a
Yeah.
very high level. Unfortunately, on a very bad team.
Yeah, Lakers suck. So moving on to your team, the Warriors, and the Warriors have been on at home, thankfully, and so they've
Oh
reeled off
God.
a few wins. They are currently sitting at they're sitting in the ninth seed, so they're a play-in tournament team in 19 and 18. And Curry's out obviously, but the real issue here is they play so well at home. To be specific, let's look at the numbers. They are
14-2.
they are 16-2 at home.
Oh, 16. I'm sorry.
They are
Jesus.
3-16 on the road. What the hell is that?
Dude,
Um,
I can't.
I,
I can't. I
I,
can't. I can't fathom that.
I mean, I don't think I'm looking on this schedule for a team with a worse road record,
There's
and
no one.
I cannot find one. The next worst road record is 5-16. The Detroit Pistons.
The Pistons.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
they have a
I can't.
worser road record than the Detroit Pistons.
Can't figure this out, man. Like it's mind blowing that the only reason why they're still in a playoff spot is because of that home record. It is the only
Right.
reason why. Dude, and the Warriors have been known to be a good road team, to say the least. They
Yeah.
always find a way to get it done, but
Yeah.
they should get Curry back by then, and they should be in a pretty good position. They got to stay over 500. They're only 6 games out of the number one seed,
Right.
so you got to. They're giving themselves a chance, but Jesus,
Hey
make up
man.
your mind on the road, man.
Hey,
It's
look,
it's just like
they got to get that they got to get that road record to around 500. They've got to do something about that because I'm sorry, but there's no way going through the rest of the season if they want to get into that 5 and up, that 5 and up 1 to 5 seed, they're gonna have to find a way to even that out.
you mean to tell me you got to win a road game?
Yeah, yeah,
And dude,
exactly. Yeah, yeah, you got to win a road game. Like seriously,
dumb.
otherwise you're gonna be ninth seed all season. You're gonna be because you're basically even though you're winning all these home games, you're just giving it all back whenever you go on the road.
They will be the scariest the ninth seed
Yeah,
in the playoffs.
well, no, they won't because they won't have home advantage.
But at least they'll win 3 games at home,
Okay,
and
you're right.
all you're asking them to do is just win that one game on the
They're
road.
gonna lose it. They're gonna lose a 7 game series away. Is what you're
Jesus,
saying.
I swear to I dude, it just gives me a headache here. Before we kind of start wrapping things up, there is one player I do want to shout out, and that's Jonathan Kaminga. I'll throw Jordan Poole in there as well, but more Kaminga because, dude, he has blossomed over these last 2 weeks here, and he has been playing some fantastic
Yeah,
ball, to say the least. There,
yeah,
he is
yes.
getting to the hoop when he wants to. He is locking up defenders. Did you see when he stole the ball from the dude from the Hornets in the corner?
No,
He
I didn't
just
see
ripped
that.
that thing right out of his
Oh
hand,
yeah, I
dude.
did. I did see that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yep. I did see
The
that.
emergence of Kaminga is awesome, and the fact that he is getting to the hoop. Now we were texting each other back and forth during the Blazer game, right?
Yeah.
They couldn't hit a three for the life of them.
No.
What does Kaminga do?
Gets to the
Kaminga goes
rim.
straight to the hoop.
Yep.
He gets the easy two, and it gets the offense back on track. That's a really big movement for his career there to acknowledge the situation, to get to the hoop, to get to the line at most, and he's hitting free throws. So I hope this is sustainable through the rest of the year because if you can add him to that death lineup where you have Draymond, Kaminga, Wiggins, Poole, and Curry, where do you fit Klay Thompson and all of that? Because
Yeah.
now you have defenders and shooters on the court, so it's gonna be good. Tiger Woods for president. What in the world?
I'm sorry. What was that?
Sorry, I took a quick look at the chat. It says Tiger Woods for
Tiger.
president. Good noches. Damn it, I can't speak Spanish. Sorry. That really threw me off just now.
Yeah. Good night. Something. Something. I don't know. Okay. All right. Well then,
All
back.
right. Well,
So getting back to the.
that threw us.
Tell Tiger I said what's up.
Yeah.
Um. So Alex, is he running? Is he running for president? Because if he's running for president, let me know. Um,
He'll get my vote.
yeah, I might vote for him. I mean, he's obviously going to beat all the other presidents in golf, so I mean, I guess that's a start. I don't know.
Oh
Um,
my god.
so, do you want to transit? Do you want to take on the next topic there, sir?
Yeah, I'll take it over. So Carlos Correa, as you all know, I was super geeked up about the Giants signing him for 13 or for a monstrous contract, and then the day of his introduction, it gets canceled, and they're saying there's concerns about his medical, and then Lord and behold, he turns right around after that and signs a 10-year, $100 million deal with the Mets, like that. And I'm sitting there and I'm furious because we don't have we have finally have our star player. Now he's leaving us. And where's our season going now? People were buying season tickets, buying
Yeah,
jerseys, and
that
now he's
sucks,
not
man.
part of the team anymore. Well, now we all may be eating our words as Giants fans because now the Mets show the same concerns as the Giants did over a surgery he had, I think, back in 2014. So now back to square one. This guy doesn't have a contract yet. They're trying to renegotiate it. I just needed to bring that out there because I did rip the Giants an absolute brand new one for failing this, and it was just infuriating. Or I'm sorry, it was just furious to just watch a player leave us like that when we're trying to get guys to come here. We're always the bridesmaid at the or brides at the altar. We can't sign these guys, and finally we signed one. Then he goes signing with the Mets, and now that's falling apart. So I want to get on this show and just apologize to the Giants and say, hey, look, sorry for acting the way I did. But you know what? You're right. So,
Left at the altar again. That is
again,
just again. So this
God,
next topic, I'm gonna start this one off. So a couple of weeks ago, I think it wasn't this week, it was the previous week. I don't know if folks are familiar with the show First Take with Shannon Sharp and Skip Bayless. I watch it for comic relief because it's funny. I like hearing Shannon Sharp talk because I love the way his voice sounds. He's got that southern accent. He keeps saying skip, skip, skip. What you talking about, Skip? Like that. I love it. It's great. I've never liked Skip Bayless. Always thought he was a piece of garbage ever since he was with ESPN with Stephen A. Smith. But they took it to a new level last week, and it almost rung similar to the Jalen Rose Skip Bayless exchange, if you remember that one, where Jalen Rose called out the fact that you only play basketball in high school, and when you did, he went so far as to know that he didn't even play much and didn't score very many points. I was wondering where Jalen even got that information from, but kudos to you, Jalen, for finding stats on a journalist and shoving it in his face. He was trying to give it back to him. He felt like he needed to. So in this case, Shannon Sharp is talking about how Tom Brady has reached the bitter end of his career, which I've been saying. I've been saying the same thing. So I don't see what Skip's so mad about. But Skip got so upset that he would say anything about his darling, beloved boyfriend, Tom Brady, and
yep.
and and went on a rant, basically telling Shannon Sharp that he is not as good as Tom Brady was, and that he needs to respect Tom Brady, and really pissed him off. So Shannon got extremely upset, felt disrespected, because he basically told him that he wasn't that great as a football player on national television. That's pretty much what happened. And Shannon, of course, pointed out the fact that he won a few Super Bowls, the fact that he's a Hall of Famer, and Skip's response was, "It doesn't matter. I don't care. And you're still not
I
as good
know.
as
Oh
Tom
my
Brady."
God.
And then made the comment after Shannon Sharp was obviously upset, took his glasses off and told him to put
Put
your
your
put your
glasses
glasses
back
back
on.
on. Um, there's so many things to talk about this, but the first thing I want to start out with is the amount of gall and just confidence that these talking heads have, whether it be Stephen A. Smith, Skip Bayless. I remember we were talking. You brought up Jim Rome, who's been around forever on the radio. Um, they sort of carry themselves in a way to where they're above the athletes that they cover, and I think we're kind of seeing a little bit of that here. And I just want to point out how egregious it is for someone who is so fascinated and loves the sport so much that they write about it or talk about it um, has no respect for the athletes that they cover. And I think I think that people like that shouldn't talk about athletes because they don't deserve the right to. You can't love the game and then feel like you're above. You can't be above the game and above the players and you've never picked up a football. You know what I mean? You never played on their level. I think there should be some due respect for players at the professional level, and it seems that some of these guys lack that. That's just like me going into an attorney's office, and just because I work in a courtroom as a bailiff, I want to start telling the attorney about how they should be better at their job. I'm not an attorney. I'm just in the room, but I'm not an attorney. And I think it's ridiculous. So, B, I want to know, did you get a chance to see the clip, and what did you think of that?
I watched the video and it was just outrage. It was just pure disrespect to a guy who was a 3-time Super Bowl champion,
Mm-hmm.
a Hall of Famer. If you guys haven't had a chance, his Hall of Fame speech when he honors his brother
Right.
is really moving
Sterling
as
Sharp,
well.
yeah.
And it's Skip Bayless is known to do this. He has pissed off a lot of athletes. He's never talked to Charles Barkley, and he hates him. There was the interaction with Richard Sherman as well that Skip Bayless caused a rough with, and obviously Shannon Sharp and then Jalen Rose incident. But look, these ex pro athletes don't need to be on television. They're doing this to give you the insight from a player's perspective here on what the game is.
Right.
But you can't sit there and disrespect a man's career, especially one who's a Hall of Famer, to a guy. You can't compare Brady to Shannon Sharp. That's not fair to both athletes because they played two different positions. Now, if Shannon Sharp was a quarterback, and you were comparing him to Tom Brady, that may be a different argument. But you're comparing a tight end, a 3-time champion, and there's not a lot of tight ends in the Hall of Fame to begin with.
Yeah.
So he's one of the elite members in there to a guy who's still playing in the league. It was super disrespectful. And this is why the media gets the reaction from the athletes that they get because you say the most disrespectful things to an athlete. There has to be a line. You're already getting ratings with the way they debate. It's a fun show to watch,
Yeah.
but you can't be taking it to that kind of level
Right.
because now it's a personal attack on an athlete who spends years perfecting his craft to stay in the NFL because it's not easy. He could have been replaced by anyone, but the man worked hard to get to where he's at, to accomplish the things that he did accomplish. And you're going to sit there and just disrespect it like that on national television.
Right.
It's downright rude. So, then he went out and he tried to apologize. That's my brother and all this other stuff. And it's like, dude, you can't do that to him on national
Right.
television. It's
Exactly.
rude.
Exactly. And in my book, Shannon Sharp, if that were me, I would have changed the subject, waited till after the show, pulled him aside,
Whoop his ass.
and say, "Look, check this out. You disrespected me. There's only two ways for me to handle this. Either you going to apologize to me right now, get on the next show and apologize as you should, or I'm gonna knock the hell out of you." And that's it because
I would choose option
I'm
two. I would love
six
to see option
I'm
two.
6'6", 250 something pounds, and you got the nerve to try to disrespect me? Really, really? I mean, Shannon Sharp could have changed his whole life with one swing. I
We wouldn't
mean,
be talking about him on that show.
he could have hit his jaw so hard. Shannon Sharp, Skip Bates never been on TV again. Never. Would never. Wouldn't have been able to talk anymore. Would have had his jaw
Yeah,
wired shut. So
I
I
can't.
just think, guys, I just think a lot of these talking heads really need to kind of, they've been given a space because they blabber, but that's all they are, is talking heads. And I think a lot of folks that appreciate the game on a deeper level hopefully can understand that, and see that guys like Stephen A. Smith. I can't even watch Stephen A. Smith because it's his show about himself. It has nothing to do with the NBA. So I'm
Nope.
not learning anything special hearing Stephen A. Smith go, yeah, I talked to somebody within the NBA, close circle of friends. Man, shut up, man. I don't give a damn. Like,
Didn't nobody care?
yeah, don't nobody care. Tell me about the game of basketball. Tell me what you know. And a lot of these guys, again, they're actors, just like you see on television. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're just up there to act and just spew all types of weird stuff to get your attention, man. You know, that's it, man. It's and I think it's a shame that someone that again represents the sport should be disrespected like that. You know, on that's that to me that's ridiculous. And don't get me wrong, the journalists criticize active athletes all the time. Happens all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and most of the time when they're criticized it's because of their game. Now you get a few outside ones that'll criticize, you know, certain guys because they just don't like him. They just don't like them and they have something to say about him, whatever. But you were talking about man to man, face to face in close quarters, and you confident enough to say that and do that. And I think at that point, that's when Shannon should reach over the table, grab him by the shirt, and throw him to the
Slam his
ground.
head on the table.
Yeah, and just
All right,
just
slam
throw
his
him
head
to
on
the,
the table.
just pick him up and slam him for every championship. You know how many times I won a Super Bowl? 1, 2, 3. I just let him fall to the
Man, dude,
ground.
it's just you're getting an insight that a lot of people can't get.
Right.
They don't have to be on these shows to give you the insight of what it is inside of a locker room or the knowledge of the game. These are smart athletes. They've been around the game. So they're sharing that experience with us, and to have someone take it away the way he did, it ruins the show and it ruins if I was Shannon Sharp, I wouldn't come back
Me neither.
because
And I don't even want to watch.
you're
I
not
don't even
being
want to watch it.
appreciated.
I don't even watch it anymore.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like, well, if he goes back, then it's like to me that feels like you know I'm not trying to be rude, but it feels like I'm punking out. Like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna sit here and let this dude talk to me any kind of way. Yeah, he can apologize or whatever, but at the end of the day, I gotta still sit and stare at the dude all day. Hell no. Like you know, I don't have to. I
No.
ain't got to do anything. I got money. You know,
That's
go
like Draymond punching Jordan Poole. Now they got to stare at each other.
exactly.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
man.
well, I mean, look, we're talking heads. We do a show. We
Yeah,
do a show about sports, but we're not ex athletes, so our opinions are going to be a little more different than maybe we bring an athlete on and get his perspective on the game. We're not going to go out there and disrespect somebody who spent years on their craft to want to do something like to want to play a sport like that. So, you know, it's the nature of the beast. It is what it is.
right.
But have respect for the athletes who spend their part of their retirement wanting to go on television to talk about the game that they truly love to play and not be disrespected for it. They've taken enough disrespect. How many games you go to and said some foul things to an NBA or NFL player? We've all done it, but
Yeah,
they're not on the field no more. They're on the television.
right.
So just have a little respect for them in regards to that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Damn. My Ravens are holding on.
Yeah, hey man, there may be playoffs in the future for you.
No, they're already in the playoffs.
Oh,
It's
okay.
just about winning the division.
Well,
I'm going to
they
be a
got it.
Bills
Yeah,
fan tomorrow.
hey, they got it. I think the Bills will. Well, it depends on if the Bills decide to show up. Well, no,
Ah,
they
shit,
kind
it's
of have to.
13-9.
They kind of have to show
They
up.
have to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
never
they
mind.
don't
Yeah,
want
they
to.
got to.
They don't want to lose that to the Chiefs.
No, yeah.
But
All right.
hey, well, I just want to let everyone know we New Year. We've made it this far with the show. We've got some amazing things getting ready to come down the pipeline. You know, we are going to need some more support from our fans and from our listeners as well. We do want to start. We do want to kind of hit it big and do our show from the summer league. So, you know, let people know, get people to follow us, subscribe to us, tune in. Everything we could do to get to that level is going to be helpful. But I don't know about you, Taj, but I would love to do a show in Vegas during the summer league time in July here.
Yeah, I would love to too, man. Because obviously my team's gonna suck, so you know we'll be. You know, summer league is one thing.
Draft pick.
Exactly, summer league is the one thing I can get excited about after a terrible season. Happy
But hey, man, happy New Year's to you.
New Year.
Hopefully we get everything we want out of this new year and nothing but good times.
As same to you, sir. All right, folks, we appreciate you joining us on New Year's Day. Again, have a happy New Year, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And sorry, we cussed, Kane. I'm sorry.
Yeah, my bad, King. It was a sensitive week of sports.
Yeah, it was. It was. All right, B.
All right, y'all. Hey, man, have a good night, my brother.
All right, peace.
Late.